Okay. So, who are you?
I am Titania Adams, but I'm affectionately known as Tiny.
Okay. So, Tiny, do you know who homecomers are?
We had a conversation. You explained to me that they are men, women who are coming home and trying to get reacquainted with society.
Do you know why you are sharing about your relationship experiences with homecomers?
I do. I think that a lot of homecomers, they're very literate. They read a lot when they're incarcerated, and so I think that they have ideas of who they are, what they're going to be, what they're going to do when they get back into society, and sometimes it just doesn't pan out that way, and it causes a lot of conflict at home, work, if they're able to get work. Just, I think it's an adjustment period, and a lot of things that people don't really think about, a lot of the little questions, little things that aren't covered in books. I mean, like I've explained to some of my friends, you can read driver's ed book all day for study it for a year, but until you get behind the wheel of a car, it's different.
That's a good point. Good point. When is the best time to have a relationship after being released from prison? What would you say? Is there a best time? When is the best time?
I think that is per individual and how honest they're willing to be with themselves, because a lot of them get in relationships prior to because it passes the time. I mean, they're lonely, or you have time to sit and think and realize the mistakes you made, and if you're able to catch that girl or guy that you thought that you missed out on and they're willing to give you an opportunity, that definitely happens. But again, I think a lot of time, I don't want to say that they're selling dreams, because a lot of people do come home and do what they're supposed to do. I had an uncle who got out after 20 years, and the lady he was dealing with when he was incarcerated, he got home, he married her, got a job, so he was doing all the functional things that he was supposed to do. But depending on how long you've been gone, there's a lot people don't know. If you've been gone 20 years, you don't know about being the man of a house. You were a kid when you got locked up. You know what I'm saying? You don't know about paying bills. If you were in the street life, you were giving money to your mother or to the girl to do everything. So you don't know what it is now to be the head of the household, to take care of business, to pay bills on time every month, credit, all of the little things that people don't really talk about and aren't necessarily in the books that you're reading. So depending on, I can't say that you can't be in a relationship. I just say be open about it and potentially have your own space if possible, because sometimes it's good to live with someone and have that affection and company when you come home, but the reality of it is you've been in a cell with another person for X amount of years. You may not know how to live, and when you're mad at this person, you gotta still be in the throes with them every day. And if you're paroled to their house, then that's a different situation, because then you're dancing to the beat of their drum. So it's kind of a touch and go. I mean, it's really how honest they want to be with themselves. And a lot of times people get out and jump into the relationships because they don't have another option. I can't go to my mom's house. She got 6 people there already. Where am I going to go?
So you're saying some good things, and I'm listening to you, and I'll just go back to this. Based on your experience, what is your experience? I mean, your own experience, and then your growing up. What was you exposed to? Because you talk from a basis of understanding.
Well, growing up, my grandmother had 4 children. My mother's the only girl, so I have 3 uncles, all 3 of which were incarcerated. One of them died in jail in 1996. The other 2, again, one of them just got out after 20 years, but he went right back a year later, so he's currently standing trial, waiting for trial. The other one is still in, and he's been in there since maybe 84, 83. He's still in jail, and his projected parole date is 2017. I have a brother who is looking at 20 years. As of 2007, he got locked up. I have had several cousins, friends who are all doing, classmates who are doing 40 years, 20 years. A couple of them are lifers. I've had some ex-boyfriends who I dealt with prior to them getting incarcerated, so I kind of, tried to be the ride-or-die chick and rode it out when they got locked up, and some of those situations didn't work. So I think I've kind of been on a lot of, all spectrums of it. I've had friends who are doing the same thing. Their guys just got out, they have kids, they have families, and I have to, hear about the turmoil of when they come home and how it doesn't pan out to all the things that the guy has been saying when he was in. Oh, when I come home, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna run the street. Because a lot of them feel like a family and a relationship is gonna keep me home and keep me out of the streets. But what happens is when they come home and you start to realize, okay, well, I got the family and that's good and that's great, but I just want to go holler at my peoples. So yeah, a lot of them get hit off with money from your peoples around the way when you come home, and then you realize, hang out a little bit more and a little bit more until you realize, oh no, I'm not going to get in trouble again. I'm not going to, I can balance the two, but now your home life is unbalanced because she's been waiting under the pretense that you were done with all that. And the reality of it is, depending on how long you've been gone, you've never got it out of your system. But your body is grown, but your mind hasn't really had a chance to really grow according to the environment that we're now in. And a lot of times, I dealt with a guy, he's stuck in the 90s. Because depending on where you got locked up at, you don't know about an iPod now. You got locked up, with the case of my uncle, you got locked up with when there was still 8-tracks and records and cassette tapes, you know what I mean? So an iPod is foreign. A lot of them don't know how to work a cell phone nowadays, the internet, computer, all of this is kind of foreign. So it's a lot. And I think it's very naive to say, oh, I'm coming out and I just got everything on lock. It's a lot to get used to. And, I've heard the whole, the game isn't changed. The basis of it, but there's a whole lot of other factors in it now that have changed.
So brothers say, the game hasn't changed. What's that about?
Ain't nothing new under the sun. There's a whole lot new under the sun right now. Hold on.
Tiny, let me ask you this. How much of a role do you think finances play into this relationship?
Well, I think finances plays a huge deal because one, if you're dealing with someone as a man and as a man who wants to be a man's man, you don't want a woman to take care of you. It's a difference where she has to help you get on your feet. That's fine. That's what the whole for better, for worse, in the throes of a relationship is about. But when it's a situation where you're using a woman because you don't really want to be with her, but you're using her to get over, then, it's a situation. And then on her end, depending on the woman you're dealing with, she could be giving these things, giving you money, giving you clothes, shoes, or getting you a vehicle as a situation of control. Because then there's a lot of times, one thing that I've learned about men, and again, incarcerated, they have a thing about loyalty. And so with this woman who's been loyal to you, all of this, she knows it, he knows it, and so she's using that. So it depends. Sometimes both parties are using each other, but as a man, you should want to stand on your own and be able to come to the table with something, or otherwise you're in a situation where it's her house, her car, and when she gets mad, you have to go with nothing but what's on your back because 9 times out of 10, she bought those clothes too. So that just kind of adds more to the, frustration of it because nobody wants to be in that vulnerable situation, but it's a situation that they all rush into.
So tell me about, you had mentioned before some time ago about, replacement of the mother in some cases. Hit that piece for me.
Well, it's like if you've been gone, even if it's only a year, 5 years, or in the case of my uncles, 20 years, who wants to go home and live with your mother? Mm-hmm. You want to lay next to a woman every night. But there's consequences that come with living with a woman. And one thing that I wish men would understand, some of them, and I'm not saying everybody is running game, but understand that it's not a lot of game that gets run on women. A lot of times, we know what's going on. those are the ones that you need to be looking out for, because there's something going on in the back of the head. If you've heard the expression, most women know what they want from you when they see you, I'm already planning. Yep, okay, I might want to marry him, so what I'm going to do is, I know he's in this situation. Why do you think so many women are pressed to sleep with a man when they're fresh out? You know, I mean, they want to be the first to try to get a hold of him. He's fresh meat. In a sense, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's how it's deemed. He's fresh meat, he's fresh out, and he, of course, he wants to, you know, sow his little oats there and be around, but she wants to get his hands in him so she can mold him the way that she wants him. That's pretty much how it goes. So, am I gonna have the option to go live with a woman and you got live-in, or am I gonna go live with my mother? He's going to a woman's house. So, I mean, you know, mama might be the best option depending on the woman that you're dealing with, because a lot of times, you know, you don't really know who you're dealing with until you have to live with somebody. And that's free or not.
How can a female assist a homecomer in developing a meaningful relationship?
I think, and I've seen it, I just had this conversation last night. I think a lot of that is really based on him and how much he's willing to relinquish, because then you have the situation where I'm still a man and I'm a man's man and I don't want a woman telling me what to do, because now we're going back into the mother factor. You're not my mother.
Right.
I don't need you to tell me what to do, but in fact you need someone to. So if you're not going to be mentored by a man who's handling his business and okay, I'll give you a perfect example. I have a girlfriend. Her guy, they knew each other when they were teenagers. He got locked up for 9 years, came home for 3. They got together during that 3 year. They had a son. He got locked up again for another 2-3 years. So he's back home now. He's been home for a year now. And it's a rough transition, because though you want to be this man, though you've been in jail reading your Bible, though you see on TV and you see all the things and aspirations that you want to do, the reality of it is you've been gone for so long. You've never maintained a household. You've never paid bills. You've given money to someone else. You've never known what to do when things get broken. You don't know how to conduct business. You don't know about credit. You don't know about, a lot of the different aspects, and depending on the person, your pride won't allow you to ask her. Because when she's trying to tell you, babe, you need to do X, Y, and Z, some men just automatically want to rebel against that because you're trying to tell me what to do. I'm grown. I know I got this figured out. And the reality of it is you need help from somewhere. Somebody needs to tell you. Somebody has to show you how to work your phone, how to work the internet, how to look for a job, how to get your resume together. I mean, these are things you may have been so far removed from. You don't know. And if you're not getting it, are you going to get it from you guys in the streets? Because what do they do all day? Gamble, sell, kind of, the same thing that got them in the situation. At what point do you grow and do you learn?
If you don't mind me asking, do you have any kids?
No.
Well, what do you think, as far as your experience, or you may have had some friends experience this with kids and dealing with a guy who's just returning?
Now, that depends. That depends on, did you know this person beforehand? Are these his children? What did he go to jail for? I mean, in any situation, I think, because it's not just limited to people who are incarcerated, because there's a lot more people on the streets who haven't been caught up for what they've done, that people welcome into their house. So I don't just look at it as, oh, he's been in jail all this time, he's going to automatically do something to your kid, because the guy next door could very well be doing the same thing, and he's been under the radar his entire life. So in any situation, you need to know who it is that you're bringing around your kids. But again, in those situations, she's pressed to have somebody, and you're automatically moving him in without knowing who he is. And the reality of it is, he hasn't had a chance to learn who he is as a free man. Because who you are incarcerated is a different set of rules of who you are when you're free. Because the same rules don't apply. There, you had to be in your cell at a certain time, eat at a certain time, shower X amount of time, 3 times a week, or, someone is telling you what to do. When you're free, you don't necessarily want to abide by those rules. You don't have to. So who you had to be in there to survive is different than who you have to be out here. It's a different set of survival, and some of them feel like the incarcerated side is easier, which is, you know, what leads to the whole institutionalized, and some of them go right back. Well, I have a cousin. He actually said he's out on. I seen him when he was out one time. He was like, "Well, I'm on vacation. I'll be back."
Wow.
But it's a reality. So I mean, kids. You know, some people love the kids and wouldn't touch a kid, but any real situation, be careful who you bring around your children. Any situation, and that goes for women, you know, the men who have children with the women that bring it around, because not every woman treats your children right when you're not around.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things, let's say, would drive a female up the wall as it relates to someone who has been incarcerated, a homecomer? What would be some of those things that would drive a woman up the wall?
I would definitely have to say,
and you know, it comes from being
right. I think it's they're stuck in a time period and don't want to listen, because you know who you know what you know, and you were the man or whatever it is that you were doing or on top of your game back then. Like, babe, we're in a whole nother decade here, or however long it's been. It's a new day, it's a new era. So when they don't, I mean, and that's a man period. When they don't listen, it drives you up the wall, because it's a transition period. I'm like, I'm trying to help you, like. Situation with my uncle, I know it drives my aunt up the wall because he doesn't listen, he doesn't communicate, because a lot of men, period, even I definitely know that they're not expressing their emotions when they're incarcerated, so that on top of being a man and not really want to express emotions anyway drives us up the wall. With my aunt, you know, there's a situation again with household things, with bills. Well, I thought that you were doing this, well, you didn't tell me this, you're not communicating this, and you walking around and you feel like you're the man. You know, you know what to do, but you really don't, and you don't want to ask for help when you need it. So yeah, that could be, and a lot of that again could be from incarceration, and then coming out and you wanting to own it, but don't want to say, I need help learning how to own it, or at least getting with other men who are out there doing it. If you don't want to ask me, ask him.
Take a break.
What would be some advice you would give to homecomers, closing advice you would give to homecomers who either are in relationships or want to start a relationship coming out?
I would say take an honest evaluation of where you are, where you want to be, and where you've been, and what steps do you need to get to where you want to be. Is the woman that you're with or whatever your partner in your relationship with going to help facilitate that for you? If you are, and being honest with yourself, if you're a prideful person, if you want to maintain the persona of being the man and you don't want her to tell you what to do, then can you be honest with yourself and say, I need another man who has been in this situation to help guide me through this, whether it's church, whether it's a mentor, whether it's your father, uncle, or whatever male figure besides someone who's hanging in the streets who has nothing to lose. I see a lot of people would just lose it all, and you're going to lose a home and a family. A lot of times they like the look of it. They like the look of a home and the family and the nicely furnished and the, you know, children and the girl and the wife or whatever. But be honest and understand what it takes to make all of that work. Because it's work, and it's work that they haven't necessarily been exposed to before. So it's a lot of new things. So I think it's just, if they're able to be honest, and that doesn't just translate into relationships, that's in the workplace. Do you know work ethics? Do you know what's expected of you? Do you know how to dress? Do you know, I mean, we're in a different day and age. Do you know what technology, what classes you might need to take? Again, getting with someone, do you know how to use your cell phone? Do you know how to check email? Do you know proper etiquette about these things? Do you know how to interview? Have you ever even been on a job interview before? You know what I mean? There's a lot of different things. Do you know about credit? Do you want a house, or are you content on just moving into her house? Do you at some point want to build a house together? Then you need to look at your credit. Do you know about credit, or has your mom or grandmother or whoever burnt up your credit since you've been gone? And if that is the case, then it happens. If that's the case, then do you know the steps about going to rebuild these things? It's really all about what you want to do, because when they wanted to sell drugs, you did your homework to find out how to do that. When you wanted to, start having sex, you did your homework and found out what kind of game you need to run to get X, Y, and Z. Anything that we want to do, we're going to find a way to do it. And it's no different when you're back out. It really boils down to what it is that you want to do. And if you're strong enough to say, I have flaws. I'm not efficient in this area. I don't know what to do. I've never been shown this. I don't know how to be a father. I've been realistically out of my kid's life 16 plus years. They're teenagers now, they're adults now. They have resentment. A lot of men feel like, well, forget them, I can make more. But do you know who to reach out to when you want to rebuild these relationships with your family, with your children? Do you know how to become a husband? You want to just automatically fit in this role as king, but do you know how to play your part? And if you don't know, can you admit that? And do you know who to go to get help with it? We all need help. I didn't just become a professional one day. I made a lot of mistakes. It took a lot of people pulling me to the side, and those are the people that I respected. Tiny, you can't do this. You're in this type of a setting. You have to know the difference between X, Y, and Z. So these aren't things that I just came out. I thought I knew this, and that, and a lot of times we do think we know it all until someone tells us different. So, and a lot of times, I didn't grow up good morning, good afternoon, good evening. These are some etiquettes that I had a crash course with. I didn't grow up knowing what's the difference between a dinner fork and a salad fork and a shrimp fork and the soup spoons and different things. I mean, and if that's the setting that you want to go into, then these are things that you may need to take the time to learn or emulate. So, I mean, there's a lot, but it really boils down to what you want to do and being honest about what you want to do, and not because it's what she wants you to do or your partner wants you to do, because trying to live up to somebody else's expectations is only going to last but for so long, because who you really are will come out. And if they love you, if you love yourself, you have to be with somebody who's willing to accept you, flaws and all, because there is a process. Stop selling the dreams. Stop telling her, I'm going to do this and that, when you've only seen it. Have you situation like with my uncle? You come in, you make a paycheck now, you have a job and you're working, and that's great, but do you know what to do with your paycheck? Do you know how to divvy it up? Do you know how to budget? Do you know where we are with these bills? Do you know if she's even handling her business? Because there's a lot of situations where you're just giving her money, but you have no clue if she knows how to pay bills, if she knows how to budget. How far behind are we on these bills? Is anything in your name? Establishing yourself as a person. Everybody has to establish themselves as an individual outside of a marriage, outside of being a mother or a father, because you are here for a reason. You're not just to be an incubator, not just to be someone's spouse or to be someone's parent. You have a purpose. You have a genius. Everyone is a genius in the right environment. You have to find your environment.